Hey, 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 what's happening? What's happening? Happy Friday. Happy Friday. It's March the 10th, and it's another beautiful day. I think we had a little rain here in RVA, but it's all good. It's all good. It's still a beautiful day. Listen, I just wanted to give you a little bit of faith, just a reminder. There's a scripture I love dearly. I love dearly, and I've been saying it for years, and it comes from 2 Corinthians 3 and 5. It says, not that we're sufficient of ourselves to think anything of ourselves, but our sufficiency is of God. Our sufficiency is of God. I didn't wake up this morning because of Michael. You didn't wake up this morning because of you and your abilities. You didn't get where you are because you got it like that. Yeah, you got it like that, but it was because of God. And I'm where I am today because of God as well. That makes us sufficient. That makes us sufficient. Doesn't matter what it looks like, no matter what's going on, that makes us sufficient. And so, what is sufficiency, or what is being or having being sufficient? Being sufficient or having sufficient is having plenty, being full, living in abundance, being rich in wealth and rich in health, rich in love, rich in joy, rich in happiness, rich in your relationships and your family and your marriage. That's what being rich is. There's a scripture, John 15 and 5. It says, he who abides in me, he who acknowledges, he who accepts, he who loves, he who walks and talks and listens, he who prays, he who thank me, he who, whatever you want to name, put it in that box. He who accepts me, he who gives, surrenders to me, bears much fruit. Wow. He who abides in me bears much fruit. Wow. Wow, wow. That alone, that alone right there lets you know that you're sufficient. Lets you know that you have plenty. Lets you know that you're full. Lets you know that you're living in abundance. Lets you know that you are rich. Last year, around last summer, I could tell you right now, last summer, I was going through some stuff. And I went through something, and my bank account was zero. Was zero. Yeah, zero. And there was a negative to it. And so I had insufficient funds, definitely insufficient funds. And my point of view on it was that, hey, I'm broke and I have this to pay. I'm broke and I got this to do. What's going to happen to this place? What's going to happen to my car? What's going to happen to the lights? What's going to happen? It looks like it's going to be turned off. But God's point of view saw that I had money in my account. Although when I looked at it, it was insufficient funds, no money in the account. Well, I began to read the scripture. Not that we're sufficient of ourselves to think anything of ourselves, but our sufficiency of God. That lets me know that I bear much fruit, that I'm good, that I have plenty, that I'm rich. I got money in the bank. And guess what? Money was in the bank. By faith, money was in the bank. You can believe it or you don't have to believe it, but money was in the bank. And it was no check that I got from a job. It was no check that I received from some source. It was a deposit that God put there. And it was more than what I needed. I live in a nice loft here. I had a big bill. I drive a nice car. I had a big bill. I had lights. I had the bills that needed to be paid. Those bills were paid. And since then, my bills have been paid. When they talk about fullness, I had chicken and I had potatoes and I had food. but God made me full. So no matter what's going on in your life, no matter how it looks like, what it looks like, or what the doctor is saying, that you're sick or this is going to happen, trust God's point of view. God's point of view sees and knows that you are healed. God's point of view sees and knows that your bank is full and you are rich. God's point of view sees that you are happy and full of joy and you're free of suffering and free of fear. Know that today. Walk by faith and not by sight. I was walking by sight and I changed my mind and my mindset and walked by faith. Listen, there's a scripture, John, I know this is a long video, but there's a scripture that said, John 13:17. It says, now that you know these things, now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. You'll be blessed if you do them. So be blessed and walk in knowing that you are sufficient enough, that God has made you sufficient, that your funds and your finances and your family and your life, your job, you're good. You have no worries. I will supply all. I will supply all your needs. I can do all things through Christ. Huh? Hey, it's up to you. Just believe and walk by faith. Much love. Enjoy the day. Happy Friday. All right. Yes.